Welcome to the Iced Tea Podcast. I am your host, Meghan Lamontagne, and on today's episode, I am interviewing the performance chef for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he's going to tell us who the biggest foodie is on the team, what their favorite post-game meal is, and exactly how to make the perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Iced Tea is a production of Mix 101.5 and presented by Lane & Associates Family Dentistry, where every patient is treated like family. Chef Sean Murnane, performance chef for the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, happy to be here.
Okay, so first question, most important question. How do you take your iced tea, sweet or unsweet?
Oh, well, we are technically in the South, so we're going to go sweet tea today.
All right, so I did get you some sweet tea, but I have to say, I did try it ahead of time. Please feel free to have any sips that you want, but it is, I don't know how you do it. It's so sweet.
No, that's perfect.
I will save this, and if you want some of mine, you can have it. But okay, so I am fascinated by what you do. You have such an important job. You fuel the Carolina Hurricanes. So walk me through what a game day looks like for you.
Well, so a game day for me typically arrive to Lenovo Center between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Get into the kitchen, turn on all the equipment, start cooking by 6:15 to have breakfast out for the guys on a game day by 7:45 in the morning. We'll see our first player around 8:10, and then from there till 10 o'clock, guys are just rolling in, getting breakfast. We have full buffet set up, eggs to order. You know, sometimes I'm getting texts from guys that are, hey, I'm running late. Can you make this and set it aside for me? So breakfast is, the 7:45 to 10 a.m.
Okay.
And then we have our pregame meal, which starts at 11, and that's the same every game. I talk to our head strength coach, Bill Burniston, all the time about it. I'm like, man, what can we do to change up pregame meal? Because I've been here 2 full seasons now, starting my 3rd, and I've made the same pregame meal 81 times plus however many playoff home games we've had since I've been here, maybe 14. So,
oh my gosh,
quick math on that, 95 times. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired of making this.
Is it superstition?
It's a combination of things. You have guys that are like, this is what I eat. This is what I know fuels my body. This is what makes me feel my best. And then there's the nutrition aspect of it as well, where, we're doing grilled chicken. We have a braised cod, a seared salmon, broccoli, carrots, quinoa, brown rice, 4 different kinds of pasta, including gluten-free options. We do a bolognese, but we use a bison lean cut 90-10. Then we have marinara, Alfredo. Guys are asking me to start working in a penne alla vodka sauce.
Okay.
But we have a space constraint and a time constraint.
Sure.
It's great to keep adding things, and which I want to do, but every time you add something, you have to kind of look at like, okay, what can we get rid of? But you can't get rid of anything because guys
rely on that.
Yeah.
So the pregame meal starts at 11. So after they have breakfast, more often than not, they go and they practice on the ice.
Yeah.
Then after practice, they come back. So why does the pregame meal start so early? I mean, the games are at 7 p.m. puck drop usually.
Yeah, so you're looking guys, they'll have their morning skate, or they might just have video or team meetings. But there's that option for treatment. So if they say they get off the ice at 10:45, they might get some treatment from our training staff. That could take a half hour, 40 minutes. So the pregame meal window is 11 to 1. We typically keep it open a little bit longer to make sure we get everybody. But a lot of guys take food home. And they'll eat at home, and then they'll take a quick nap and go get ready for their day. So that 11 a.m. start, it's not, for, a regular person, you're like, oh, lunch at 11? It's like in high school again. It's like, oh, I had one class and then it's 10:30 a.m. lunch. What am I supposed to do? But they're taking the food home. They might eat it when they wake up from their nap and warm it up in the oven or the microwave. But, we do have the camaraderie. There is always a solid group of guys that sit there and they eat and they talk about it. Talk about the day, talk about, what happened yesterday, talk about what's going on this weekend.
So is that the last meal that they eat before they hit the ice?
No, so they arrive 3 hours before game time, so it's about 4 o'clock. They can be there between 4:30. But I actually get a pregame snack together that's in the locker room available for them. Super simple. It's just a chicken noodle soup, grilled chicken, a white rice. Then we make pico, we make guacamole, we make a teriyaki. So it's kind of a build your own bowl situation if they want more protein, more carb. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then we have variety of fruits and granola and coconut. And we make these protein bites that everybody loves.
Now, I was reading somewhere that the NFL goes through a massive amount of Uncrustables. So do you go Uncrustables or do you actually make these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
No, we're actually making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every game day. Yeah. Wow. So I asked that same question because, a little background. I used to work for the Washington Redskins, the now Commanders.
Right.
But we used to just put Uncrustables out and we'd go through a case or two a day. And I was like, why don't we do this? And then, I got some feedback from Bill, our strength coach, and Kristen, our dietitian, and they were like, guys, they don't like them. So I was like, all right, guess we're making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And so
that's amazing. Yeah. I definitely want to get into your past careers because they've been fantastic. Yeah. But sticking to this PB&J type of situation, so if they don't like Uncrustables, then how do you perfect a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Peanut butter all the way to the edges on both sides of the bread, little glob of jelly in the middle, spread it out, put it on there, cut it in half, put it on a plate, make it look real nice.
There you go. Is any of the players ask for their crust off?
We do have one player that I cut the crust off every game, and I individually wrap it for him. It kind of started as a joke my first year because if a sandwich is sitting out, it might get stale. He made a comment. He's like, "Oh, why are the sandwiches all stale?" And I was like, "Well, you're trying to eat this sandwich at 10 o'clock at night when we're serving dinner."
Yeah.
And it's been sitting out for, a couple hours.
Right.
So I was like, would you like me to, wrap one up for you for post game? And he's like, yeah, actually, I'd love that. And I was like, you want me to cut the crust off of it for you too? And he was like, actually, even better. And, it was a little dig from him of like, yeah, I bet you won't do it.
Yeah.
But then I did it. He scored a goal that next game. So then it's just something that stuck and we do it every game.
Okay. So I know you're trying, you don't have to tell me who it is, but just say, is it a veteran?
He's been on the team since I've been here, so to me, a veteran.
Okay, I love that. I love that so much.
Young vet.
Yeah. I feel like in my mind, I think I know who this is. But okay, so peanut butter and jellies, they have this pregame snack because a lot of times I'm assuming guys don't want to have a full stomach before they get out there and do their thing.
Yeah.
And not that I can relate by any means, but as the in-arena host for the Carolina Hurricanes, I for one am not working as hard as they are. But I do have my own pregame meal as well because I don't want to be super full when I'm up there talking on a mic in front of 20,000 people. So I have like my little turkey sandwiches that I make and it's kind of light. So that's what fuels them before the game. Now, once they do the first period, they've already burned a ton of calories. Is there anything they're eating during the intermissions?
That whole snack that we just talked about is available to them throughout the game. We put new product out at the start of the game, and then that gives us about a 3-hour window, and that's how long a game is before it's technically not food safe anymore. But then they have a variety of energy chews and bars and protein bars, and there's always single serve oatmeals available and yogurts. So they'll snack on that throughout the game during the periods. Bill Bernstein's really great about making sure they have their proper hydration, which has carbs and electrolytes, and he's putting those in their stalls during the period so that when they get back, that it's there ready for them, so they don't even have to think about it.
Oh, so, amazing!
Yeah, during the game, Billy's really on top of things, and guys can yell down the hallway and say, hey, I need this. And Bill's running out there to grab it and, making sure that they're good to go.
Oh my gosh. So it really is a team effort. So I do want to get into that team aspect and what goes into their meal planning. But last thing, because I know how I am post game. I am ravenous. I will go home and just raid my freezer. What do the guys eat post game?
Well, we have a full post game meal. We have 3 different protein options, a starch option and a vegetable option. And then this year it used to always be Caesar salad because that's what the guys really wanted post game. This year, we started introducing different salads, new, fresh ideas, just something a little different to look forward to for the guys. So there's a salad option, vegetable, starch, and 3 different proteins. There's always a fish, there's always a chicken, and there's always a red meat option, whether it's pork or beef. So we have that, and it's different every game.
Okay.
My first year here, it was my goal to not repeat a post-game meal the entire season. So I did 41
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
41 different meals.
We did 41 different meals. I mean, obviously, you using chicken or different fishes and pork, like, same proteins, but you're making them look different sauces, different plate ups. Last year, same thing. I took a lot from my first year, but I introduced some new stuff. And then this year, what do we have? 8 home games so far as we're filming this. But I'm trying not to repeat, but I'm also finding the favorites from the guys, like what they really like, what they really want post game. So we're doing, whole spread post game too.
See, that makes me feel so bad about myself because I feel like after a game, I'm like, oh, man, I deserve this frozen pizza I'm about to make myself. Yeah. Meanwhile, these guys just crushed it and they're like, I'm going to eat a healthy salad. Yeah. Man, but I mean, it's probably exactly what they need after burning all of those calories and to feel good in order to get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So talking about the team preparation, you're talking about the nutritionist and Billy that you mentioned. What is his exact title?
He's our head strength and conditioning coach.
Okay, yes. How do y'all work as a team to come up with the proper meal plans for these guys?
So like I said, I mean, pregame meal is always the same. Breakfast is more or less the same. We add some specialty items on practice days, whether, that's a stuffed French toast or like a different quiche or, just something a little different to, make it fresh. But for post-game meals, I'll sit down, I have this week and next week's meals planned out. And then on Monday mornings or Mondays around lunchtime, Kristen, our dietitian, Bill, and myself will sit down with Mike Brown, our team services guy, and we'll go over the meals for the next week and a half. And then, whether they're on the road, Kristen takes care of that, making sure that the catering is available and make sure we have, everything we need for flights and hotels and all that. And then we'll go through the menu and, so far so good. Very rarely has there been why would you make this for a post-game meal? We need something healthier. I've been doing this a long time, so I get to, have the gist of it. But, they'll chime in and they'll tell me, hey, I think we should change this. Like, back-to-backs especially,
Yes.
Sometimes I don't always think about that, but this year after Thanksgiving, we had a game on Friday and then a game on Saturday where my first year I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about the road because Kristen's taking care of it. But she'll say, she'll let me know like, oh, hey, we have back-to-back. We can't do something super heavy.
Right.
And they're having this for dinner on Saturday. I'm like, oh, right. Okay. So we'll change that up.
Oh my God. There's so much planning. I mean, I can't even plan my weeks. I mean, do you just go to Costco and go ham? Like, how do you do all this stuff?
So we have food vendors that deliver. I use 4 different vendors that deliver groceries right to the arena. So I just have to send a text, make a phone call, jump on their website and just say, hey, I need, for instance, this week we have 2 home games. We have a Saturday, Sunday this week. I just put in an order to be delivered on Thursday. I ordered for 2 days. I ordered 300 pounds of chicken.
Oh my God, that's so much
and
chicken.
It's going to be delivered Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So I rarely have to go to the grocery store unless I'm looking for a very particular item, spice blend, sauce or whatever it might be. But yeah.
How do you, because it sounds like you are running the ship. So how many people do you have helping you? Because to make that many meals and that many meals that many times a day, how do you get it operating?
So I have, I call him my sous chef, but his name's Ramon. He helps out all the time. I mean, the guy's the hardest working guy I've ever worked with. He's phenomenal. If he wasn't around, I don't know what I would do. He makes my life so easy. Anything I need prepped, I show him one time and I say I need 50 just like this and it's done. I don't have to think twice about it. And then I can go work on the, other projects that we have going on that day.
So it's just literally you and Ramon.
Yeah.
A 2-man band.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us have seen The Bear and we see how chaotic it is. Yeah. And it's just the 2 of you cooking for an entire team plus coaching staff.
Yeah. So we're doing about 45 people a meal. So from the food side, it's we're doing 4 meals a day basically on a game day, and then we're doing 2 meals a day on a practice day. So practice days are easier because we can get a lot of our prep done in the afternoon after lunch is out. And then we do have another kid. His name's Mac. He helps out. I have passed off peanut butter and jelly making duty to him. So I am no longer actually making said peanut butter and jellies, but
I bet they can tell a difference a little bit.
Well, sometimes I do have to come in and correct and say, hey, let's make sure we're doing it this way.
It's got to go all the way the edges.
Yeah,
I will be making mine different. Thank you for that tip. No. Iced Tea is presented by Lane & Associates Family Dentistry. Now, Lane is not just a single office. They have offices all over North Carolina with 50 locations spreading across the state. Visit lanedds.com to find a location near you. So the three of you, what is the energy? We'll still talk about game day. What is the energy in the kitchen on game day for you? Because I know it's probably stressful.
I mean, everything about our day is so timed out. If I say 6 o'clock's the latest I get there. If I walk in the door at 6:05, my brain's in a blender. I'm like, oh man, I'm late. Everything needs to be done right now.
Okay.
So we have everything very regimented. I'll get there, no later than 6. Ramon will show up about 7:30, 7:45, right when breakfast is starting. And then he'll run breakfast as soon as he walks in. So he'll take over omelet station, take over specialty orders. He'll be on the phone with me like, hey, so-and-so just walked in. Can you make them French toast? And I'll say, yeah, give me 5 minutes. Just because I'll be upstairs prepping for lunch at that time.
Okay.
Making pasta, getting sauces made, grilling chicken, those kinds of things that we need for the meal. But everything for us is pretty dialed in. The first year and a half was a little chaotic. But like I said, it's the start of my 3rd season. I can basically go through my day with my eyes closed until trying to get post-game out. Because like I said, that's different every day.
I am so impressed. And as someone who also likes to plan, it's stressful, but I'm sure it's also super satisfying when you get to the end of the night and you're just like, when are you, I'm concerned about you. When are you eating during all this?
It's funny. I don't really sit down and have a meal, but I'm tasting food all day long.
Okay.
I'm not sending anything out if I haven't put a spoon in it and tasted it myself. I mean, from the eggs in the morning to the pico at snack to, a piece of chicken at, 9:30 at night when post-game meal is being served. I've been snacking all day, tasting everything through every step of the recipe, because recipes are guidelines. So you're always going to have micro adjustments, whether you've made the sauce 100 times or it's the first time making it, it's always going to be different. So you always have to taste it. So you never really feel hungry.
Are you one of those chefs? I'm sure you are, but just you can do it with your eyes closed, but you follow a recipe, especially if it's something new, or do you go add that gut instinct?
No, see, recipes are guidelines, right?
Okay.
You don't like if I'm doing a new sauce or trying something out, I will take the notes from the book and I'll say, okay, it calls for this, 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 and this. Let's say, a sauce that I make a lot is it's a maple bourbon cream sauce for steaks. The guys love it. Every time it's a little bit different. Maybe you're getting garlic in the summer that's a little bit stronger than the garlic you're buying in the winter. So in the wintertime, you might have to add a couple more cloves of garlic. So you're just always tasting it. And this is always tough for me with the crew I work with, because they're like, you gave me this recipe, or, I put a recipe out there and they're like, oh, well, you're doing it different than your recipe. I'm like, well, yeah, the flavors are different seasonally, or, depends on how hydrated I am or how many cups of coffee I had that morning, or there's so many variables.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. So is there a recipe that you have made for these guys that just hits and it's their favorite and they're still talking about it to this day?
I mean, the maple bourbon sauce.
I was just going to say.
Blueberry barbecue sauce. They always want that one. Any risotto I make, guys, are, whether it's a mushroom or a sun-dried tomato or just an herb, like something as simple as risotto that's quite challenging to perfect. And not saying I've perfected it, but they all want me to tell their wives, their girlfriends, their sisters, their mothers,
No
how I
pressure
made
on
that.
them.
I'm like, hey, guys, I don't know how I did it. I just stood there and it showed up 4 hours,
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I would be so nervous to be like, oh gosh, let me try to replicate what Chef Sean just did. Okay. Oh my God. How many, roughly about how many calories are these guys consuming on a game day?
On a game day total? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at breakfast, you're 500 to 800, and then lunch, you're looking anywhere from 12 to 3,000, and then post game anywhere from, some guys eat a little lighter, so maybe 1,100 to 2,800, depending on the guy. I mean, it just varies so much between guys.
I'm so jealous. I wish I could eat that, but also not work out.
Yeah. I mean, it just varies so much that you really. You would have to like pick a specific player, and then even then, I don't have that information dialed.
Sure.
That's more Kristen's realm,
Right.
But it's just one of those. Every guy's different, and what they're burning on the ice is different than, if you look at Kochetkov or Anderson, they're playing a full 60 minutes.
Sure.
What they're losing in water weight, burning calories versus, you look at, Jackson Blake. He's not playing as many minutes as Jordan Stahl. Like all those guys each guy has their own.
Man, everything is so timed out, and you're so right. The amount of time on the ice, and you did mention that you always have a gluten-free option.
Yeah.
I am gluten-free.
Yeah.
I am not fully celiac. Cross-contamination is fine. But are there guys that have celiac on the team, or is it preference?
I can't talk about like exact
that's
medical
okay. You don't
stuff,
have to tell
but we
me.
do have a couple of guys that we do avoid gluten cross-contamination, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So but my wife, she's gluten intolerant, borderline celiac, but she's we've been together 4 years now, and it's honestly, cooking for her, it's just made it so easy that I don't even have to think about it when I'm cooking for the team, because 99% of the ingredients I'm using are gluten-free.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing something like a pasta for dinner, I will always just make sure to have a rice or a potato or a gluten-free pasta option available if our guys that are gluten-free want that.
That's fantastic. At first, when I started dating my boyfriend, I think he was nervous. Like, what do you mean gluten-free? But now when I make things for him, you can't even tell the difference. Yeah. And honestly, the gluten-free stuff is really good.
Pasta and bread still like a little,
I'm sure
there's some pastas that are better. There's some breads that are better. And, but I'm not too picky about food when I'm outside of work. Like if I'm not making it and somebody else is making it, it's just like, hey, this is great.
I'm sure you're like, please just put it down. I will eat it as long as I didn't have to make it in the kitchen. Yeah. What does the away team eat? Do you have to feed them too?
No. So I only take care of our team, the Hurricanes. Yeah. So they'll typically get catering from restaurants or arena staff that, they'll provide fruit and sandwiches and stuff like that from the arena, or they'll order out from, Happy and Hale or sushi places.
Interesting. Okay.
So I don't do anything with the visiting team. I think it, that would kind of be a conflict of interest on my end.
That's very true. That's very true. I didn't even think about that. This is all the behind the scenes stuff that I love to ask, because us fans, it's things that we don't think about. But it really put into perspective for me last week when we were going to do an interview, but unexpectedly the Canes couldn't fly out because their flight was canceled because of snow in Colorado, and you had to be like, I have to make 2 additional meals for them that I wasn't planning on. And it just brought into perspective how much your life literally is based on their schedule. So with something like that and their travel, do you pack meals for them on the plane?
So on a back-to-back night, like I used the example a little bit earlier about right after Thanksgiving, they're flying out to Florida for a back-to-back against the Panthers. They will take the post-game meal, box it up themselves. They'll pick whatever they want that I've made. Last year, there was a couple of flights where I made lunch and, they box up what they want. They, pick and choose. But typically that's something that Kristen really has dialed in. She's doing all the orders for the plane. I would say, 95% of the time the food is on the plane by the time the players get there. And then when they're sitting down, the plane staff is, dishing out meals and handing them, whatever Kristen has ordered for them. The example you used last week where, they couldn't fly out on Friday. They flew out Saturday morning. That was just one of those, hey, I have to hurry up and stand by in case I have to be there to make this stuff,
Yes.
so I went back, prepped everything. Thankfully, didn't really have to do too much for the next day because Kristen was on it immediately, made sure the guys were taken care of.
Okay.
And really, she saved me from having to work on a Saturday when the game team was leaving. So I appreciate that.
But talk about stress and talk about, would that have been a last minute order for you? Or
Oh no, that might have been a grocery store trip.
Yeah.
Because they're gone for a week, right? So I order just enough that we're not having colossal waste at the end of the day, right? Where certain things will hold, bacon, we can hold that or we can freeze that. But eggs, they're good for 2-3 weeks, but you don't want to I don't need 30 dozen eggs sitting in the walk-in when the team's gone for a week and a half.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that too. Just making sure that you don't have anything go to waste.
Yeah.
And there's so much thought. I'm stressed right now, Sean. I'm stressed.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Oh my God, that is wild. So when the guys then travel, Kristen coordinates and they'll eat something either ordered or catered on that end. So do they ever struggle? Well, no, they crush it on when they're away. But I guess with their stomach and what they're used to, is that ever a conflict?
From what I've heard, guys, they have a totally different routine on the road than they have at home. It's just like, this is my road routine, this is my home routine. And, God forbid I do something to vary the home routine, which, that would fall completely on me. But when they're on the road, they know that they need to be a little bit more adaptable. They do as much grief as they give us. And, in a joking way, they understand that, we can't be in Winnipeg to say, hey, this isn't right, or hey, this, doesn't look amazing. Can we get a replacement? And then they give us honest feedback when they get back, and sometimes, again, that's stressful because you don't really have control once you call the hotel and say, hey, this is what we need, and then, Kristen's not there, I'm not there, and it's, Bill has 10,000 other things going on the road, and then now it's kind of on Mike Brown to take the brunt of that and go talk to the hotel.
Because he's the only one that travels from that team on your team.
Yeah. So Mike Brown, he's our, team services manager, coordinator, whatever his new title is. But, he's a great guy and he's there to support the guys. And when they need somebody to rip, or something to complain about, Brownie's there. When they have something nice to say, Brownie's there. And it's great, because we're getting the feedback either way. And, we like positive feedback a lot, but, if we don't get the bad stuff, if we don't hear about the bad things, we're not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of.
No, it sounds like, and especially it being your third season, you've really found your knack there. So some players that probably do have some positive, maybe even some negative feedback, the international players, because
they have a different cuisine.
They have different cuisines.
Different
so
cultural,
how do you accommodate that?
It's, this is going to be lumping everybody in generalization here, but hockey players are real meat and potatoes guys. Whether you're Eastern European, whether you're Finnish, Swedish, Canadian, American, they're all blue collar meat and potato guys. And it's just, is the potato going to be cubed, or are we going to, peel this potato and just have boiled potatoes? So the international guys, they're all great. Lump the Canadians into those international guys since we're sitting in Raleigh, North Carolina. But if you're looking at the Northern Europeans and the Eastern Europeans and the Russian guys, they're, they will eat whatever you put in front of them. I do try and make some nationally inspired dishes a couple times a year, usually around the holidays. You don't want to do it too early in the year because guys were just home and they're going to come back and be like, oh, you're not good at making this. And I was like, so I play my cards right where I know that, you get to mid-December, early January.
You wait till they're getting a little bit homesick where you're like, I'm going to put,
it might not be perfect, but it's possible, and guys are super excited about it.
I'm sure they're very grateful. I did see an interview. I forget who it was with, but they were commending your cuisine, which is so good.
I play that card. You can't do it early. You can't wait too long. You just gotta hit that sweet spot of homesickness and long season. And it's worked out for me the last 2 years where guys are super stoked. So
good. I love that. I love that. You're like,
I'm giving away my
secret. Grandma.
Yeah, I'm giving away my secrets here. So hopefully they don't see this.
No, I think if anything, they'll appreciate the fact that you put so much time and thought into it.
Of how I'm going to con them.
Hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. But with the holiday cuisine, we, like you said, Thanksgiving, and then also Christmas time. Actually, they're on the road for a while during Christmas, but do you play to those as well?
Yeah. Obviously Thanksgiving, American holiday and Canadian holiday, a couple weeks earlier than our Thanksgiving here in the States. So that Christmas, New Year, All King's Day, those are all very big in Europe. So that's when I'll try and bust out those, whether it's Finnish meatballs or lokietta. I'm not even saying that right, I'm sure, but it's a salmon stew that they eat in Finland. Or we'll, try and do like some borscht or, a Eastern European Russian dish, early on in October. Yeah. But it was, it was a big hit because we have a couple of guys that just like that cuisine, and, guys are just excited. They want to see what they're used to.
Oh, yeah.
So
I bet that really gets them pumped up. Yeah. I bet that really does.
Pierogi Day, huge hit.
That's awesome. That's
for
so
all
fun.
Those guys, yeah.
And I bet it's fun for you too, because it switches things up and you get excited to do something different in the kitchen. Yeah. I forgot to mention this, but when the guys, I saw this story and I just laughed and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So, obviously they were on the road. They were on the West Coast. I think they were leaving Seattle going to Vancouver, and the bus broke down and Brent Burns gets 100 cheeseburgers from McDonald's. When you heard that story, were you just like, typical, or were you like, oh my gosh, my heart?
No. There's a lot of layers of this story, but you got to eat, right?
Right.
Everybody had done their job except for that engine on the airplane. Food was on the plane, bus was at the plane, then they just had to figure it out. At 12:30 in the morning, your options are very limited. Mm-hmm. But I will say, and, my wife gives me a hard time that, while I prepare food all day, every day for professional athletes, used to, former professional athlete myself, like, it's just, I will go home and eat a frozen pizza. I will stop at McDonald's. I will eat chicken tenders in the oven. If that's what I could eat, that's what I would eat. So every once in a while, like, you don't want to preach that that's a good thing or that that's okay. But one day is not the end of the world.
Sure.
And again, if I was there, what was I going to be able to do? Say, okay, I'll go through the McDonald's drive-through? Like,
he needed somebody because they wouldn't let him walk through it. But
Harris Teeter's not open at 12:30 in the morning, so I can't, pull the burners out in the parking lot.
Although I will tell you, when you were telling me that story about the last minute, and then sometimes you do need to go to the grocery store last minute. I would love to be the checkout person, ringing things up. I would just have so many questions for you. Like, why do you need all of this meat and potatoes?
Throughout my career, there has been several times where I have thrown off a grocery store's order inventory because I've bought 50 pounds of mozzarella cheese, or I've gone in and bought 100 pounds of potatoes. And that's all I'm buying. I'm not, it's not like I'm grocery shopping for a house. It's like, oh man, our truck didn't deliver this one thing today, so I go to the closest grocery store and just buy everything they have of that one item.
Yep.
And I would hate to be that inventory guy.
Well,
we went through 100 pounds of mozzarella on a Tuesday. What's going on?
Now the lovely listeners know they couldn't make their lasagna that night because Chef Sean he cleaned out the Harris Teeter.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. I love your passion for food and the kitchen. And you even mentioned yourself that you were an athlete. Yeah. So what inspired you to become a chef, and what sports did you play?
So I played a little bit of everything growing up. I was, multi-sport. Parents just put me in anything that was going on: soccer, football, wrestling, hockey. I played hockey through college. And then when I finished college, I started racing triathlon.
Oh, wow.
I got pretty good at that. Not a very lucrative career, but you can make like tens of dollars a weekend racing triathlon. So I was working in a bike shop to pay for my bikes and my travels to all these races. And one day I was working on a guy's bike, and his name was John Matheson. And first time I met him, I'm sitting there working on his bike, and he goes, "Oh, so like, what do you do?" And I don't know, what was I, 21, 22 at the time maybe? And so like 12, 13 years ago. He's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I was like, taking a chain off of his bicycle. And I'm like, "Well, bro, you're at my place of work. Like, what does it look like I do?" And he was like, "No, like, what else?" And I was like, "Oh, I went to school for hospitality management. I have a background in culinary arts because my dad was a chef in the Marine Corps for 30 years." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm the executive chef for the Washington Redskins. Here's my card. If you ever want to get back in the kitchen, let me know." And this was November, December. And then a couple months later, I had a Facebook message from him that said, "Hey, is this Sean Murnane from," the shop was Try 360 at the time. And I was like, "Yeah, like, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, like, I'm looking for a line cook. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, a little, unorthodox, but, Facebook message, sure." I was like, "I'll come check it out." I showed up on Wednesday. I got there about 8:30 in the morning for an interview, toured around the kitchen. I started Thursday at 6:30 in the morning. Worked an 18-hour day for the first day of the NFL draft.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wait, so this story is incredible. So now you go from having a bike in hand and
telling a guy that, what does it look like I do?
But the fact that he was a chef and that was also your past journey, but he just took the chance. I mean, did he even know?
No idea.
No
idea. He just asked me what I did. And I was the, grungy bike shop kid that, wearing high socks, short shorts, probably wearing a bike cap and a cutoff flannel, and smart ass and said, "What does it look like I do, man? I work on bikes."
But that conversation led to what then launched this career. Yeah. But do you believe, okay, we're getting a little like woo-woo right now, but do you believe in like fate like that? Yeah. I mean, that was a fate moment right there.
It was wild. Yeah.
That is insane. Yeah. What before you got to that, what sparked your love for cooking? You mentioned your dad.
Yeah, my dad was like I said, he was a chef in the Marine Corps. All the guys that worked for my dad while he was in the Marine Corps, they were all like older brothers to me. They always had me in the kitchen. They always had, were showing me something, explaining things to me, having me help them do stuff. And, that just kind of, the kitchen is a community in itself where you build a team around yourself, and you see, especially in our industry, like in sports, you're with that group. If I'm at the arena 18 hours, 16 hours a game day, I'm with the two guys that help me out at least 12 of those hours. Mm-hmm. And a season's long, you're there all day, every day. And restaurant industry, the same thing. Like, you show up at 10 o'clock in the morning and you're closing down the restaurant. You're there for, 14 hours. You have the same five guys and girls around you that are grinding it out. So it's kind of that community after sports too, right? Where you always had your teammates, you always had this group that you were with that you could rely on. In the kitchen, you have to have the same mentality of like, hey, we rely on each other to make sure that everything is executed perfectly.
Yeah, it is truly a family.
Yeah.
And the communication is so important.
Yeah.
What would you say, so you worked for now the Commanders and also Major League Baseball was now the Guardians. Yeah. What's the biggest difference between working for baseball, the NFL, and the NHL?
I will say that, the guys in the NHL are a lot more outspoken in a good way of like, hey, I really like this, or I didn't like, not tearing you down, but like, oh, like, hey, don't do that one again. It's like, all right, cool.
Okay.
The group is, and this could just be from team to team, because when I was with Washington, we, had a couple of rough seasons there. Mm-hmm. Since I've been here, teams have been really good.
Right. It's the food.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Give yourself props.
Cheers.
It's the
food. Nothing that Rod's doing, or
it's a group effort.
No, Roddy is definitely a driving force there. But I just think the camaraderie is a little different in a hockey. In hockey, I mean, you're all on the ice together. Where football, you have offense and defense, and those are often split up throughout the day. Where offensive meetings are at 9 a.m., defensive meetings are at 10. So while the guys are all friendly and all super nice, like, I haven't had a bad experience in sports with any team, but you just kind of see this more of a like brotherhood in hockey, because you guys you are on the ice with the same three guys and, alternating defensemen, whatever you want to, however you're running lines, you're sitting on a bench that's 20 feet long with 20 guys.
Sure. And a football team is has bigger
53 guys that are spread out over 80 yards.
Right.
And they're not always going to be on the field together.
Sure.
So it's a tough question to answer, really, just because everybody has always been. Yeah. And everybody's been so great throughout my career.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. So you were saying, though, like when you come home, do you even want to remotely cook anything?
Oh, I do, because I love my wife and I want her to be happy.
That's a good man right there. You are the sweetest. Oh my goodness.
Unless I've had a terrible day, then we're putting frozen pizzas in the oven.
And that's just as good too. That's just as good. What is her favorite meal that you make at home?
Oh man, we might have to phone a friend on this one. Because a lot of the times it's what do we have in the fridge? And,
that's fair.
She's a dietitian as well. So we are very much ingredient-based household, which is really tough when you get home and you're like, I just want to lay on the couch and eat chips and salsa.
Yes.
And you have to make salsa.
I love that everything is so fresh, though. I love it.
No, yeah. I mean, we went camping over the weekend, and or I guess a couple weekends ago now, we were out and we came home and I was like, what do we have? And it was like, we had some chicken stock in the fridge. I had some rice noodles and peanut butter and peppers and onions. And I was like, well, we're going to make a knockoff, like Asian peanut Thai sauce and throw noodles in there. And in my head, I'm like, I wish I just had a bowl of ramen that I could put in the microwave, but
you realize that's extraordinary, right? Like if I only had those things in the fridge, I'd be like, well, I can't make anything, and you just created an entire meal.
Yeah, it's the bane of my existence when I get home, because I say we don't have any food, and we'll come in and pull out 10 ingredients. I'm like, oh, challenge accepted.
I love that. I'm seeing a reality show for you in the future where we just give you a bunch of ingredients and you just go for it.
What was that show? Chopped.
Yeah. That's what I was like, I think there's a show like this. You should be on it because
a chef friend of mine was actually on that show one time, and
oh really? Yeah. Did they win?
No, he got second, I think.
Listen, that's still talent.
Yeah.
Well, okay, last bit of fun we need to get to is our final segment called Spill the Tea.
Oof.
Hopefully you can answer some.
If I knock over the cup and run away, does that count as answering?
Yes. See if you can answer as many of these as you can.
All right.
Okay. Who's the pickiest eater?
Oh, man, they're all picky in their own right, but there's not somebody that really stands out. Particular is what I would use for these guys.
Okay.
Particular, not picky.
Okay,
yeah.
and that's fine.
And man, I can't really throw anybody.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fair.
That's fair.
Because my list is about 18 long.
I love your loyalty. If someone could eat like only junk food, if they could, is there someone that would do that?
Yeah, there's definitely a young kid on our team that would probably do that, but he's growing, he's older, he knows he's going to be here long term now, so he's really dialed in this year.
Okay. Okay, good. So the junk food is off the table.
I wouldn't say it's completely off the table, but he's doing a lot better this year.
He's learning.
Yeah,
I love this.
Longevity over convenience, so he's,
for sure. Yeah. You've kind of touched on this, but has anyone been brutally honest about something you've made?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say, Jordan Martinook, he is our, everybody wants to call him our resident foodie.
Yeah.
But he has a very keen eye, and he knows when I've taken shortcuts, and he'll call me on it, and I respect that out of him. So I won't call that a throwing him under the bus.
No.
That'll be holding everybody to the standard that the group wants to be held to.
Does Jordan Martinook enjoy cooking as well? Is he kind of he's a foodie himself? Yeah.
So I'll get a text from him every once in a while of, hey, I have this fish. Hey, I have this cut of meat. How should I do it? I keep burning this pan. What should I do? So it's nice because we build that relationship of trust and reliability where it's like, hey, if you are doing something at home, hit me up. I'll walk you through it. If you just have a quick question, I'm available for you.
Yeah.
So I will say Martinook has been a huge help on that because he holds me accountable, and I appreciate that.
We love Martinook for that. Oh, that's amazing. I feel like you can't do this, but I do have it written down, so I'm just going to ask. Have you ever made anything that's just kind of bombed? You're just like, ugh. Yeah,
there's been a couple of dishes that haven't gone over well. I'll have to look at my notebook, because I take notes on everything. It's happened one or two times where a lunch hasn't, exactly landed, or, it's just not what they were feeling that day. But I think overall there's always plenty of options. So it's always like, oh, this one just wasn't great, it doesn't, everybody's afraid to tell me they don't like something. And honestly, if you don't tell me you don't like it, I'm going to keep making it, or I'm not going to change. Like, I can play with recipes. I can try new stuff with the same dish. Mm-hmm. So like maybe I just didn't make it right.
Yeah.
And I'll try it again. And if they're like, no, this is a little better, then okay, I'll try it a third time and the fourth time until I get it right. But if they're just straight up like, hey, don't make that again, we don't like it, then I'm not making it again.
Yeah.
So I need that honest feedback. And again, that's like I said, Jordan Martinook and a handful of other guys that are, super dialed on helping me get better and making sure that the guys are getting what they like.
That's great. Yeah. And that is such a great communication and honesty and relationship. That is what makes this team go round, you know? Have you changed anyone's mind on something you've prepared?
Yeah, actually, I think, my big thing is at least try it.
Yeah.
So like I'll stand there if it's, I made a forbidden rice dish last year. It's I'm sure you've seen it. It's a purple creamy rice. Black rice is probably what you buy at the store. Guys came by and they're like, oh, what is this? I was like, oh, it's forbidden rice. It's nice. It's like risotto, it's coconut, this. And like, oh, I don't think I like that. And so I stand there and I'll have guys try. I'm like, at least try it, and they'll taste it. And, I do purple mashed potatoes every once in a while. And the potato actually grows purple where the inside is purple. And guys are like, oh, you're putting food dye in. And I'm like, no. So I stand there with the potato and I cut a piece of it off and they see it's purple. And they're like, okay, I'll try it.
Yeah, we love purple potatoes. Yeah. It's a thing.
That's more for like the younger guys when we have development camp and stuff.
Yeah.
Chilean sea bass, obviously huge hit. But sometimes you put a different sauce on it and guys are like, oh, I don't know if I like that. So, my only ask is at least try it. Don't tell me you don't like it unless you try it.
Yeah.
Unless it's something, story I always tell is I can't stand macaroni and cheese. It is my least favorite thing in the world. So I will never try macaroni and cheese. I will make it for the team, but once I mix the noodles and the cheese sauce together, somebody else has to taste it.
You're like, Ramon, get over here.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, does this taste like that? But like, if you tell me you absolutely, like, unequivocally hate something and you will never eat it, then I'm not going to force it down your throat. But if you're just like, oh, I don't think I like that, I'm like, well, here, try it.
Wait, is there a story behind the mac and cheese? You just don't like the texture?
Yeah, it's when I was a kid, I never liked macaroni and cheese. Okay. And then, my grandmother made me eat it one day and I cried and I threw a fit and my mother said, oh, he told you didn't like it. And my grandmother felt bad. And, I was probably 5 or 6 and we're going on almost 30, 28 years of not eating it. So I just have to take that one to the grave. like, I might like it. I'm sure I do. If somebody just gave it to me and was like, this isn't macaroni and cheese, I'd be like, oh, okay. And I'd eat it. I'd probably like it. But I just got to take that one to the grave that I'm never eating it.
Poor baby Sean. Oh my gosh. Scarred by the mac and cheese. That's okay. That's okay. 2 more. If you could cook them one meal to celebrate, we're just going to say a big win here because we're superstitious. But if they got that win, what would be the meal?
Man, that might be an ordered in pizza in case of beer day because I would be celebrating with them.
Yes, that's a good answer. I love that. And last but not least, we love the mustache. Is it staying? Is it superstitious?
A little bit. So this mustache used to be a ski season thing. So I'd start growing it in, late November, shave it off in February, March. Mm-hmm. And then I met my now wife 4 years ago and I met her with the mustache. And we went on our first date and she made a comment to one of my friends that I was a little scruffy. So the next day I went to the barber, I had a mullet and everything, haircut, clean shaven, show up at our next date and she looks at me and she's like, no mustache? And I was like, well, you said I was scruffy. And she's like, well, I liked the mustache. And like, this is scruffy now, but it was like bad because it was ski season. And So we started dating, and the mustache has been there for 4 years. So I don't know if I can actually ever.
I love it. Don't get rid of it. It is part of you. It is your staple. And of course, again, with that tradition and superstition. Well, Sean, thank you so much for being here with me. And I learned so much.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, let me
pretend to drink.
Oh, God. It's just so sweet. It's so sweet. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Iced Tea, and don't forget to share it with someone that you know is going to enjoy it just as much. A big thanks to Lane & Associates Family Dentistry, our presenting sponsor for Iced Tea.